Okay, so now we're going to show you another way how you might create a character in ZBrush. So I'm going to do a new document and then go to Lightbox and press this red sphere. This is called a Z-sphere. Now, this is totally new to anything we've seen in ZBrush so far, but Z-spheres are super cool. So I drop in the Z-sphere and then basically I'm going to drag out these spheres that are all connected to block out the mesh really quickly. I've never seen this kind of thing done by any other software, which is, I don't know why. It's been around for years and years. So I have symmetry turned on, and if I left click and drag, I'm pulling out these spheres. So W, I can move and reposition these spheres. And this is kind of going to be the torso, and these are the arms that I'm pulling out. Okay, so actually I'm going to keep these here for the shoulders, go back to draw, and then I can pull out this guy. So I drew my little Z-sphere on there, press W, and then I can move it this direction, because this is going to be the elbow. So we've got chest, shoulder, elbow, and you'll start to see this starting to form here in a second. And depending upon how big I make it, right? So I'm being conscious of how large I'm making these. So here's the elbow. I'm in move. Now if I grab the ball itself, I can move that ball. If I grab kind of the in-between part, I can then rotate. So I don't necessarily have to go to rotate to do this. I can do that in move and then rotate where I want. Now those arms are crazy big, but that's okay. So I'm going to go back to draw, right? That's also Q on your keyboard. And let's pull up a head. So this could be the start of my neck. Now, what is it? E to scale. I can scale that if I made it too large. And you don't want your Z-spheres to do that. So I want to pull that up a little bit so that does not happen. And I'm going to draw on this guy again, being conscious of symmetry being on, because if I were to go to this view and draw that, yay, that's looking good for a neck, but it's made two of them. So I need to find that center line and then draw up. So here's my neck. Let me get a head in there, then move this head kind of out for this creature. And let's come down here and add more of a body. That's looking great. So I can add as many Z-spheres as I want to. And this still probably isn't making a whole lot of sense to you guys yet. But I can block out my character, fingers, toes, anything that I want. And as soon as I get done with the feet, I'll show you what we're doing here. Let me quickly do that. All right, so I'm just dragging on my mesh, moving them around. Press Q to draw. So let's say he's got some bent knees like that. Give him some feet. Okay, so this is my character. If you press A, this is kind of like a preview of what the mesh could look like. If this looks great, I've got my character kind of blocked out. I know I want him to have these real long tentacle arms. So let's continue that. So I made it a little smaller, then I can move. Notice how this is also moving this guy is because my brush size is a little big. I can bring this down and then it will only affect this sphere. I'm going to press E to scale. This is my tentacle arm. And then, so really quickly, I'm able to block out my character, which is amazing. Okay, that took maybe 5 minutes, if that, really quickly. If this is what I want, I'm going to go on the right-hand side over towards adaptive skin. Oops. So adaptive skin is located here. And what I want to do, I want to turn the density down and then the Dynamesh resolution to roughly 64. And you can press preview to see what it's going to look like. Remember, this is not going to look amazing. This is just blocking out really quickly your character. So I press preview. That looks great to me. I'm going to press make adaptive skin. When I did that, something changed up here. I'll do that again. So this was created, but if I press it again, right, here is another one, skin Z-sphere. So I have my Z-spheres, but what I want to get into now is that one that I created. So I can just press this. Now, these aren't Z-spheres anymore, so this is actually geometry that I can sculpt on. So I can smooth out some of those edges and then use the same techniques of Dynamesh and Z-remeshing if I want to. So I'm just going to smooth those out, holding down Shift, smoothing those out. This would be a good time to save, so I can save this as a subtool, save as, blah, 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 start. You could save your Z-spheres as one if you want to make changes, and then save this guy. And then, just like before, we can come in here and start sculpting. So I think I'm going to turn on Dynamesh. Okay, it is on. Hold down Control, left click and drag. And I'm going to use the snake hook brush to give him some tendrils or like tentacles on his face, maybe like Davy Jones a little bit. Dynamesh it. Okay, cool. And maybe back here. Dynamesh that. Sweet, let's do some sculpting on this little guy. I think I'm going to give him like 8 spider eyes. Maybe not 8. So notice I don't have enough geometry. I'm going to bump up this resolution to like 124 or 128, I guess. I'm going to hold Shift to make a change on my mesh, and then I can Dynamesh, and it will put that resolution all over. That just gives me a little bit more detail. I can come in here and get these kind of spider eyes that I was talking about. Cool. Beef that up a little bit. Do a Dynamesh. Carve this out for his mouth. And he's got really chunky up here. I don't really like that. Let's work on his tentacles. Squidward tennis balls. I love SpongeBob. And you guys get the idea. So we started with a Z-sphere. We pulled out just the basic shape of our character in a T-pose. That way we can rig him later on. And then we can sculpt like crazy, do our Dynamesh. After this, we can do our same thing. We get everything looking good. Yay, this is what I want. Let me do a Z-remesh. The reason for Z-remesher is that way I can have control over the subdivisions, right? In Dynamesh, I cannot. So I'm going to press Z-remesher just to see what happens. I've lost some detail, but that's okay. So we went from the Dynamesh geometry to this. And then I can go in to my geometry, add a couple subdivision levels, add that detail back in. And keep on sculpting. Okay, so that was what did we use? That was Zspheres with a combination of Dynamesh and Z-Remesher.